Imagine two people, both born in the same year, both celebrating their 90th birthdays today. One is confined to a nursing home, dependent on care for basic functions. The other just completed a 5K walk, tends a garden daily, and teaches piano to neighborhood children. What separates these two lives? What invisible forces determine whether your later years will be marked by decline or defined by vitality? It's not just genetics. Twin studies from the Swedish Twin Registry show that genes account for only about 25% of longevity factors. It's not just luck. It's not just avoiding disease. And it's definitely not those anti-aging products flooding your social media. The truth is both simpler and more profound. For the past 30 years, scientists have been studying superagers, people who remain mentally and physically vibrant well into their 90s and beyond. What they've discovered will transform how you think about aging. Today, I'm sharing 5 extraordinary insights from cutting-edge longevity research that most health professionals aren't talking about. These aren't just theories. They're evidence-based strategies that explain why some people thrive decades longer than others. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what separates those who merely grow old from those who age extraordinarily well. You'll discover why everything you thought you knew about aging might be wrong, and how small changes now could dramatically transform your future. Stay until the end for the most surprising finding. It contradicts conventional wisdom, but could be the single most important factor in extending your vital years. We're living in unprecedented times. For the first time in human history, the number of people over 65 exceeds those under 5. By 2050, 1 in 6 people worldwide will be over 65. But here's what those statistics don't tell you. There's an enormous gap between those who simply survive to old age and those who thrive. And that gap is widening. While medical advances have extended our lifespans, many people experience prolonged periods of disability and dependence before death. The average American spends the last 8 to 10 years of life with significant functional limitations. But then there are the outliers. People like Jean Calment, who remained independent until 110, or Fauja Singh, who ran marathons at 100, or Dr. Ruth Westheimer, who at 95 still writes books and gives lectures. Scientists have been studying these exceptional individuals, and what they've found challenges everything we thought we knew about aging. The results point to specific factors that predict who will thrive in their later decades, and most aren't what you'd expect. Let's dive into the science of extraordinary aging, what researchers call compressed morbidity, living longer with less disease and disability. The first secret goes beyond the standard advice to keep your mind active. Neuroscience has identified something far more specific: cognitive reserve, your brain's ability to find alternative neural pathways when original ones are damaged. Look at these 2 brain scans. Both show significant physical damage associated with Alzheimer's disease, yet the person on the left showed severe dementia symptoms, while the person on the right functioned normally until death. Why? The difference is cognitive reserve. Dr. Yakov Stern at Columbia University has pioneered research showing that cognitive reserve acts like a neural insurance policy. When disease or aging damages one neural pathway, a brain with high reserve can reroute functions through alternative networks. The groundbreaking Rush Memory and Aging Project followed over 2,000 older adults for decades and made a stunning discovery. About 30% of people who showed no cognitive impairment during life had substantial Alzheimer's pathology at autopsy. Their brains had been damaged, but their minds continued functioning normally. How do you build this neural resilience? The research points to 3 specific approaches. First, cognitive challenge that pushes boundaries. Dr. Denise Park's Synapse Project at the University of Texas found that learning challenging new skills was more effective at improving cognitive function than activities that were merely enjoyable or familiar. Their research specifically showed that learning digital photography or quilting, complex skills requiring sustained mental effort, produced significant cognitive benefits, while socializing or watching documentaries did not. Consider Carmen Herrera, who began her successful painting career at 89 after decades of rejection. She mastered complex geometric abstraction, pushing the boundaries of visual perception. She continued painting daily until her death at 106, with her work displayed in museums worldwide. What we're finding is that passive activities don't build reserve, explains Dr. The key is sustained mental effort that requires learning and adaptation. Second, multilingualism creates alternative neural frameworks. The Edinburgh Study of Aging and Cognition found bilingual individuals experience dementia symptoms 4 to 5 years later than monolinguals, regardless of education level or socioeconomic status. This isn't about fluency, but about the mental exercise of switching between language systems. Even learning the basics of a new language in later life can strengthen neural plasticity and build reserve. Third, occupational complexity throughout life. The Victoria longitudinal study tracked thousands of older adults and found that those whose careers involve complex interactions with people, data, or ideas showed greater protection against cognitive decline, even decades after retirement. This explains why a retired teacher, lawyer, or social worker might maintain cognitive function longer than someone whose work was more routine. The complexity created cognitive resilience that continues to protect the brain decades later. Here's what this means for you. Passive activities like crossword puzzles or watching documentaries may be enjoyable, but they don't build significant reserve. Instead, learn skills that feel uncomfortably challenging. If it's easy, it's not building reserve. Expose yourself to different languages, even casually through films or apps. Seek complexity in your daily activities, whether that's through work, volunteering, or hobbies that involve managing multiple variables. Remember, cognitive reserve isn't about avoiding decline. It's about building your brain's resilience to function well despite inevitable changes. The discomfort of learning is precisely what creates the protection. The second secret challenges our cultural obsession with comfort and convenience. It's called hormesis, the biological phenomenon where exposure to mild stress triggers cellular repair mechanisms that leave you stronger than before. Dr. Mark Mattson at the National Institute on Aging explains it this way. Mild stressors trigger adaptive cellular stress responses that enhance the ability of cells, organs, and organisms to withstand more severe stress. This principle explains many paradoxical findings in longevity research. Take the Finnish tradition of alternating between hot saunas and cold water immersion, a practice common among some of the world's longest-lived populations. Temperature fluctuation creates mild stress that activates heat shock proteins, which repair cellular damage and reduce inflammation. A 20-year study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that Finnish men who use saunas 4 to 7 times weekly had a 40% lower all-cause mortality risk compared to those who use them once weekly. The effect was dose-dependent. More sauna sessions correlated with greater benefit. Similarly, intermittent fasting creates mild metabolic stress that activates autophagy, your cell's self-cleaning process. Dr. Walter Longo's research at the University of Southern California shows that fasting periods trigger cellular regeneration and reduce markers of aging and disease. Studies from the University of Florida on time-restricted eating demonstrated that even without reducing calories, limiting eating to an 8 to 10 hour window improved metabolic health in older adults. Participants showed better insulin sensitivity, reduced inflammation, and improved cellular stress resistance. Even certain plant compounds work through hormesis. Foods like broccoli, turmeric, and green tea contain mild toxins that trigger our cellular defense systems. Dr. David Sinclair's work at Harvard Medical School shows these compounds activate longevity pathways originally designed to help organisms survive adversity. The Okinawans, known for their exceptional longevity, regularly consume bitter melon, sweet potato leaves, and seaweed, all rich in hormetic compounds that activate cellular resilience pathways. We've been looking at stress all wrong, explains Dr. Mattson. The complete absence of stress is not ideal for longevity. Instead, regular exposure to mild stressors, followed by recovery, is what builds resilience. Practical applications of hormesis include temperature variation, alternating between hot and cold in showers or baths, intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, high-intensity interval exercise, brief bursts of challenging activity followed by recovery, consuming foods rich in hormetic compounds like cruciferous vegetables, berries, and tea. The key insight here: constant comfort may actually accelerate aging by reducing your adaptive capacity. Your body's resilience depends on being challenged, not overwhelmed, but regularly pushed to adapt. Consider implementing small hormetic challenges daily. End your shower with 30 seconds of cold water, try a 12-hour overnight fast, or incorporate short bursts of intense activity into your usual routine. Remember, these stressors must be mild and intermittent, allowing for recovery periods. The goal isn't suffering, but stimulating your body's natural resilience mechanisms. The third secret reveals how your internal timing systems affect longevity. Chronobiology, the study of biological rhythms, has uncovered that when you do things matters as much as what you do. Dr. Sachin Panda, a leading chronobiologist at the Salk Institute, explains, every cell in your body has a clock, and these clocks need proper synchronization. As we age, this synchronization becomes more critical, not less. A Northwestern University study found that older adults with irregular sleep-wake cycles had nearly twice the risk of cardiovascular disease compared to those with consistent patterns. This wasn't about total sleep time, but about regularity. Fascinating research on chronotypes, whether you're naturally a morning lark or night owl, shows surprising connections to longevity. Data from the UK Biobank study of over 430,000 adults found that natural early birds had a 10% reduced risk of all-cause mortality compared to night owls. Even more compelling is the timing of meals. The Salk Institute demonstrated that restricting eating to a 10 to 12-hour window, regardless of what's eaten, improved metabolic health in older adults. Participants showed better blood sugar control, reduced inflammation, and improved sleep quality without changing their diet content. This explains practices observed in longevity hotspots worldwide. The centenarians of Nicoya, Costa Rica naturally rise with the sun, eat their largest meal before 2 p.m., maintain consistent daily routines, begin winding down activities at sunset. The science explains why. Circadian alignment optimizes countless metabolic processes, from hormone production to DNA repair. Disruption of these rhythms is associated with increased rates of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and cognitive decline. Practical applications include maintaining consistent sleep-wake times, even on weekends, getting morning sunlight exposure to reset your master clock, eating within a 10 to 12-hour window, aligning your most mentally demanding tasks with your cognitive peak time, reducing blue light exposure in evening hours. The most important takeaway? Consistency matters more than perfection. Regular patterns, even if they're not ideal, provide greater benefits than occasionally perfect behaviors interspersed with chaos. This may explain why seemingly contradictory diets can all produce health benefits if they create consistent metabolic patterns. The timing regularity may matter more than the specific content. The fourth secret addresses a critical but underappreciated aspect of aging: sarcopenia, the progressive loss of muscle mass that begins around age 30 and accelerates after 60. The Baltimore longitudinal study of aging made a groundbreaking discovery. Muscle mass was a stronger predictor of longevity than many other health metrics. In fact, each 10% increase in muscle mass was associated with a 14% decrease in mortality risk. This explains why some nonagenarians can live independently while others cannot. It's not just about years, but about muscle functionality. Loss of muscle mass directly impacts mobility, metabolism, and even cognitive function. The key intervention isn't just exercise, but optimizing protein consumption. Dr. Douglas Padden-Jones at the University of Texas Medical Branch discovered that older adults need about 30 to 35 grams of protein per meal to maximize muscle synthesis, compared to just 20 grams for younger adults. Even more critical is leucine, an amino acid that acts as a metabolic trigger for muscle building. A study in the Journal of Physiology found that leucine-enriched protein sources were more effective at preventing muscle loss in seniors. This explains dietary patterns in longevity hotspots. The Sardinians consume goat's milk and sheep's cheese, foods rich in leucine and other essential amino acids. Japanese centenarians combine fish and soy, creating complementary amino acid profiles. The latest research shows that protein distribution throughout the day matters as much as total consumption. Dr. Stuart Phillips' work at McMaster University demonstrates that evenly distributing protein across 3 meals stimulates muscle synthesis more effectively than concentrating it at dinner, a common pattern in Western diets. Practical applications include consuming 30 to 35 grams of high-quality protein at each meal, focusing on leucine-rich sources, dairy, eggs, fish, poultry, beef, and soy, distributing protein intake evenly throughout the day, combining protein consumption with resistance exercise, adding protein-rich snacks if meals are more than 5 to 6 hours apart, For vegetarians and vegans, combining complementary plant proteins becomes especially important. Quinoa, buckwheat, and amaranth offer complete amino acid profiles, while traditional combinations like rice with beans provide complementary amino acids. Remember, muscle preservation isn't just about strength. It's about metabolic health, insulin sensitivity, and functional independence. Maintaining muscle mass is one of the most powerful interventions for extending healthy years. Combine optimal protein strategies with basic resistance training, even using body weight or household items, to powerfully counteract age-related muscle loss. Studies show that adults in their 90s can still build muscle with appropriate nutrition and exercise. The fifth and perhaps most profound secret comes from psychological research. The critical role of psychological flexibility, your ability to adapt to changing circumstances while staying connected to what matters most. A 23-year study from Oregon State University made a remarkable finding. Psychological flexibility was more strongly associated with successful aging than optimism, social support, or even purpose. This challenges previous assumptions about what mental qualities matter most for longevity. Dr. Anthony Ong at Cornell University explains, psychological flexibility isn't about positive thinking or avoiding negative emotions. It's about adapting to life's changing demands while maintaining connection to your core values. Harvard's landmark adult development study, running since 1938, found that how people handled life setbacks was more predictive of health outcomes than avoiding problems altogether. Adaptation, not avoidance, was key. Consider Sister André, a French nun who lived to 118. She survived 2 world wars, the 1918 pandemic, and even COVID-19 at age 116. When asked her secret, she didn't mention diet or exercise, but her ability to adapt to each situation without fuss. This explains why some people thrive despite significant life changes, while others decline rapidly after retirement, losing a spouse, or relocating. Those who maintain flexibility can reorganize their lives around new realities while keeping core values intact. We once thought traits like optimism or conscientiousness were key, explains Dr. Ong. But we're finding that flexibility, the ability to shift approaches when needed, may be even more important for psychological health as we age. Research from the field of acceptance and commitment therapy shows 3 key components: mindful awareness, the ability to observe thoughts and feelings without being consumed by them; values clarity, knowing what matters to you regardless of changing circumstances; committed action, adapting behaviors to serve your values even when conditions change. A UCLA study found that long-term mindfulness practitioners showed less age-related brain atrophy compared to controls. The regular practice of observing thoughts without judgment appeared to preserve brain structure in regions associated with attention and emotional regulation. Values clarity becomes especially important as abilities change. Research from Stanford Center on Longevity shows that those who can maintain connection to core values while adapting how they express those values show better health outcomes than those who abandon activities entirely when they can no longer perform them in familiar ways. For example, someone who values creativity might shift from physically demanding crafts to digital art as dexterity changes. Someone who values contribution might move from volunteer construction to mentoring young builders. This research provides practical strategies. Practice mindfulness through simple daily awareness exercises. Clarify your core values regularly, especially during life transitions. Distinguish between means and ends. Be willing to change how you pursue what matters. Welcome difficult emotions as part of the human experience rather than fighting them. Participate in varied social contexts that require different roles and adaptations. This flexibility has profound physiological effects. A Yale study found that older adults who regularly adjusted their goals while maintaining core values showed lower levels of inflammatory markers associated with age-related diseases. The contrast is stark. Those who cling rigidly to particular ways of living often experience rapid decline when those methods become impossible. Those who maintain flexibility continue finding satisfaction through evolving approaches. We've explored 5 evidence-based secrets that separate those who merely age from those who age extraordinarily well. Cognitive reserve through challenging mental engagement, hormetic stress that activates cellular resilience, chronobiological alignment with natural rhythms, strategic protein nutrition for muscle preservation, Psychological flexibility in the face of change. These aren't quick fixes or miracle cures. They're sophisticated biological and psychological principles that work with your body's natural systems rather than against them. What connects all five? The common thread is resilience. Neural, cellular, metabolic, physical, and psychological capacity to adapt to challenges. This multidimensional resilience is what ultimately determines whether you'll merely survive or truly thrive in your later decades. Which of these insights resonated most with you? I'd love to hear in the comments which principle you plan to implement first. And if you found value in separating aging myths from science, please subscribe for more evidence-based content that could transform your health span. Remember, extraordinary aging isn't about denying reality. It's about building layers of resilience that allow you to find joy, purpose, and vitality at every stage of life. Until next time, here's to your extraordinary future.